As someone who's from the South, Rylan and Rocky come up with maybe the most redneck way to capture this astrophage breeding ground to find these predators, and I think it's kind of awesome. Hello, and welcome back to the couch. We saved you a seat. My name is Luke, and today we're going over Chapter 18 of Project Hail Mary. It's a book I picked up after watching the trailer for the movie that's starring Ryan Gosling that's being released in March of 2016. I got it all out. It's a phenomenal trailer. You all know this if you're this far into the book. If you want to follow along, just go into the description in this video. I have an Amazon link to the book. Buy it, follow along. But until you do that, you might be a little lost. Regardless, let's continue. So we begin chapter 18 with a flashback. And this flashback takes place while everybody who is associated with both the crew, the main crew for the Hail Mary, that's Dubois and Yao, and I'm going to mispronounce the Russian name, so I'm going to call it the Russian engineer. They're all sitting in a room, a mess hall. They're all sitting in a room, hanging out, watching a launch. So there are 16 different launches that happen to get the parts and the modules and the instruments and everything, including the people, up to the International Space Station so they can build the Hail Mary in space. Very cool. And so all the crew and everyone who's kind of associated with their group of scientists are sitting in a room and they're watching the 9th launch, which is the launch that includes the 3 modules, the 3 living modules that they're all in. So they're watching the BBC and they're all kind of joking around, and the Strat's Avengers are all sitting there, and the main crew is sitting there, and there's some really good human moments. They're all living their own lives and being personal. Yao's drinking a German Pilsner. He calls it a German Pilsner. It could be anything, any German beer. I called it a German Pilsner. I don't know if that's true or not. Dubois is drinking this 2003, Cabernet Sauvignon Blanc or something, fancy, huh? And the Russian engineer is drinking the tumbler of vodka, which is hilarious. What a move. I would do that. Just saying. So then they're goofing off and kind of chilling, but really, really trying to pay attention to make sure the flight happens. Essentially, they just wanted to leave the height of the platform in which the ship goes up. And they're making fun of Rylan because they said, do you know if Strat's going to be joining us? And of course, he's like, I don't know. I don't keep tabs on Strat. Like, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, you're going to be representing her then. Like, that's your job, isn't it? And he's like, no, I'm not that person. And they're like, yeah, you are. And he's like, no, I'm just like you guys. I'm just a scientist. And they're like, no, you're not just like us. You're the second in command here. You're the number 2. And so there's back and forth and they joke, and the rocket takes off and it safely leaves the platform and then goes into orbit. And that's kind of the end of the flashback. It's a really human moment. Really think it's kind of good. Really shows the personalities of each one of the characters that speaks and is part of the crew and part of Strat's Avengers, and it's pretty cool. So we then fast forward to the present, where Ryland had just finished another test on the astrophage that they had captured outside of Adrian in orbit, and it failed. So what Ryland had done was created a vacuum sealed container. Well, he had the vacuum sealed container, but he created the atmospheric conditions for the astrophage and tried to make them get eaten by the predators with the methane. Unfortunately, didn't work. So he and Rocky are a little bit broken up about it, but they do have a conversation, and Rocky postulates that the predators could live not in the Petrova line, but in a place that's closer to the planet's surface and further into the atmosphere. And after a moment, Rylan realizes and Rocky realizes, they can use the Petrova scope to see where the breeding happens, because they feel like that's where the predators will most likely meet, is where the breeding happens. And they'll be breeding at the brightest point because it creates 2 instead of 1, utilizing the Petrova scope. So they begin to look. Sure enough, they find the space where they're breeding, but it's 91 kilometers above the surface of the planet. That's an issue, because in order for the Hail Mary to maintain orbit, first, it has to be 100 plus kilometers from the surface of the planet based on gravity, based on their magnetosphere, based on a bunch of other reasons. And it has to maintain a speed of 12.6 or 12.2 kilometers per second, which is faster than I'll get out. But the area that they're looking for is at 91.5 kilometers. So they can't get into that area with their instruments to capture where the astrophage is breeding. So they sit and think for a while about it, and then Rylan has a crazy idea. He sits down, starts doing math. He asks Rocky, he says, how much of that xenonite, I hope I said that right, those of you in the comments, I might not have, and how much can you make? Do you have it? Do you have a lot? And Rocky's like, yeah, I've got plenty. Rylan then starts to explain his idea. Essentially, Rylan wants to make a chain long enough that they can do a flyover at 30 degrees while the chain's hanging down from the Hail Mary 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers, and he's going to try to capture the astrophage inside of a mechanism while he takes off through. It's the most redneck idea. Like, I've come up with more redneck ideas as someone who's got, that kind of family and from that kind of place. But that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then they start building their chain. So what they need to do is use the 3D generator to create the links out of aluminum, and then Rocky can make the links using the molds in Exonite. But during the planning process, Rylan then remembers to ask Rocky, hey, how come you guys have so much extra astrophage on your ship? Right? Because at this point, Rocky's math skills are unbelievable. How did they miss this one? Rocky was able to get Ryland within 100,000th of a degree of a point after 10 days of traveling with simple math, right? What were they missing? And Rocky explains that his experience on the ship is that on their way there, he got there at near twice as fast as he thought. The rest of his crew was dying, couldn't figure it out. He was stopping halfway, going halfway, stopping halfway. He could not figure out why they on the ship were getting there quicker, or he on the ship was getting there quicker. And it finally dawns on Ryland. Oh, their race doesn't understand relativity. It doesn't understand relativity as opposed to time. They didn't know that the closer they travel to the speed of light, the less time will affect the things that are traveling compared to the rest of everything else. It's all relative to your space at your speed or velocity. And so before we go to a flashback, Ryland's like, I'm going to need you to sit down for this one because this one's going to be tough. Then we have a flashback. And this is a flashback where Ryland meets a man named Steve Hatch, who is a Canadian. I think he's British Columbian. And he comes in to borrow some astrophage, or to have some astrophage. Requisition, we'll call it. And Ryland jokes around with him a little bit, but apparently this man, it's his job to create devices that will collect and store data so that they can be sent back to Earth from the Hail Mary. He's the leader of the project for the Beatles that they were talking about earlier in the book. So they have some back and forth. They talk about his fascination with the Beatles. He's a pretty peculiar person. He's also hyper positive. It's an interesting addition to Strat's Avengers. I don't know that he's a full member. He might just be an ancillary member. But he does name all of the Beatles after he does name all the mechanisms after the Beatles, the storage devices. And he asks for far too much astrophage. And then he's like, no, actually, I just need a little bit. And they're getting ready to test these Beatles. And essentially, this guy, Steve, is just overtly positive about what's going to happen in the Hail Mary, that humans will find a way. And they have a conversation about God. And there's a lot of Beatles references. But he finally gives him the astrophage. And the guy leaves his office. And Ryland's like, wow, that's peculiar. And that's the end of the chapter. Pretty short chapter. Not a lot happens, but you do have more of these human moments. It feels like we're really setting up for something big. I don't know what's going to happen with this chain bit. 10 kilometers of chain is a lot. For example, I think it's 10, it might be 20, I don't remember. But I used to run pretty fast and pretty often. And my 5K time is better than 20 minutes. They need a chain. They're going to link together a chain of xenonite. Gonna screw that up. Xenonite. That would take me more than 40 minutes to run from one end to the other. Crazy. But it is redneck, and I kind of love it. Like I said, I love the personality that's happening in this. It's really nice. It's really cool. It's pretty clean. And I'm just kind of excited for the next chapter. Chapter 19, I bet they do this flyby thing. Boy, there's zero chance it's gonna go well. This is a half-assed idea for sure. Like, once again, I've had these ideas before, and I've tried to make them work. And even when we prepared for the worst still happened. So even worse that we didn't prepare for still happened. So this is going to be kind of crazy. I'm excited to see what happens, but I think I'm going to leave it there. If you like this content, please like and subscribe and share. Go buy the book or anything else from Amazon using the link. It'll help me out a lot, and it'll help the channel a lot, and we can continue going. Then otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. So later, taters.